Welcome back for another episode of The Associates. Today we have an exciting one. We got a special guest coming in from a different market, so it's going to be an interesting one. What do you think, David?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty excited. I mean, it sounds like Monique has some good experience in the Montreal market, so I'm really interested to hear her insights in terms of what's happening in Quebec and specifically in Montreal.
Awesome. Let's bring her in and see what she got to say. Hey, Monique, how's it going?
Hi guys, how are
Hi,
you?
Monique.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice
David
to
and
meet you too.
Jean-Michel.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah. So how's it going? What's going on over there in Montreal? Well, I guess first tell us a little bit about yourself and how long you've been doing this for and stuff like that, and then we can kind of go into it.
I mean, it's so boring, but I've been a real estate agent for like 19 years. It's a long time. My kids were super young when I started. I did not know what I was doing, but I never looked back. Honestly, I love it so much.
Oh, okay, okay. I used to work for Monique. A lot of people don't know. I was her assistant for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah, when I first started.
Call you my assistant. No, we
Well,
co-listed.
I
We
was
were working
working
together.
with you.
You
I
guys were
was
in the
the
same brokerage
assistant.
or
Yeah.
nice, nice.
Yeah. It was fun times back then. But I mean, Montreal's always been kind of a. Can you hear us?
Yeah, but it's not working.
It's okay.
I can hear you pretty well.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, like I used to work for her. She used to be a top performer. Well, she's still a top performer in Montreal. She's doing very well and stuff. But was back at Londono Group when that's when I first met Monique. Back in
Nice.
Yes,
So,
that was a really,
yeah.
to be honest. Didn't you love that office? It was young and fresh and local and really, I think it taught me a lot of what I know today. And funny enough, I bumped into their agency director last week.
Okay.
Michael, remember Michael?
Yeah.
And I literally told him, "You're the one who made me like such a good agent."
Oh, that's crazy.
oh
Yeah, no, I
wow.
remember that office. Those parties are crazy, especially the Christmas parties.
So
I
how's
Um,
know, I know, I
how's the
know.
market going on right now in Montreal, Monique?
The market, it depends who you're going to ask, right?
mhm.
It's fluctuating. It depends. I work all over the island. Montreal is an island, very much like New York City, and it's full of condos in the core of downtown, and then in the suburbs you'll have like the houses and extra little condos. The houses are selling faster than the condos these days, but
Yeah, I think
I
it's like
feel like
that
it's
everywhere.
getting super active. I'm starting to list a lot.
So David doesn't know this, but the real estate market in Montreal is much different than it is in Toronto, right? So it's like a different way of they do things, right? Like here in Toronto, if you ever notice on Realtor when you're looking for properties, you'll see every single property except for what's in Quebec because you can't find those on realtor.ca, right?
Oh, what do you mean? You can see what the rest is on the rest of Canada?
Yeah. On realtor.ca, you can see across Canada, but you don't see any properties in Quebec unless they changed it. But last I
Why is
checked.
that?
No. So that changed, I'm gonna guess maybe 10 years ago, maybe a little bit more than that. Our board separated from Realtor, even though we're still together, and we're now something else, centrist.
Yeah. So they have
Hmm.
a specific website you can go to. Like here, when like agents start getting a little busy, they get their own website and you can have a direct feed from the market.
IDX.
Yeah, exactly. In Montreal, you can't do that. So they do completely different real estate than we do here. And like, like door knocking and all that stuff. Well, you
Yep.
got to do that in Montreal. You can't get away from it, right?
Interesting.
I'm not gonna do it though.
Interesting.
Fair
I'm
So
enough.
I
gonna,
mean, so Monique, so the big news in Toronto last month was home sales were up 37%. And think that's a little misleading because that's coming off of January where we saw the lowest sales of a January for 24 years.
Mhm.
So I did a little bit of like I took a little look in Montreal and I see prices are up about 7%, but like how would you describe the market from last month?
Um, how can I explain it? The buyers are out there. They're definitely out there. The properties are not selling multiple bids. Forget about it. Unless it's very scarce property and top of the line and really well priced. Some neighborhoods are selling very expensive as well, like same prices as during the pandemic, while others, the prices have gone down. So it'll really depend on the neighborhood, the type of property.
Hmm.
I want to correct myself. So I'm on Realtor and you can see them now. But back when I started in Toronto, you couldn't see them before. I just want to correct myself. I was wrong. But anyway,
Quebec?
you could see Quebec now on realtor.ca, but before you couldn't. I don't know when that switched, but Now you
Oh,
can.
you're talking about a realtor. Okay.
Yeah.
But you guys have a back end too, no? Like just like we do?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But that one you wouldn't be able to see.
No, we'd only see Ontario on those ones.
Okay, yeah, no, realtor, we're still on realtor. The only difference is they'll only take, I capture, I think 12 pictures from, and not the total picture.
Okay. Interesting. So what do you see going on this year? How's the market? Like, are you saying it's kind of selling the same pandemic prices, but how crazy did it go in the pandemic?
So again, like the houses we're selling in like 20 bids,
Yeah.
sometimes even more. Now, we see offers that are accepted with a contingency of selling their house, which
Seen
that
that
would
too.
never have happened. So, I mean, you have to have a strategy when you do that. We just scooped up a condo for one of my clients, that way, but you have to have the strategy in order to be able to do that. And we went to see another house with another buyer that also had that contingency. The client had to sell their house, the other one accepted offer with that. But it's active, it's super active.
So you're
And
saying,
how long are those conditional periods?
yeah.
Like 45 days, 60 days?
It depends on the offer. Some people will say, give me till June 1st. Others
Wow.
will say, give me 30 days, but it's minimum 30 days. Yeah.
June 1st. Wow. So that's 5 months from now. Imagine tying up your property and then that buyer not being able to
Tied
sell.
up. So it's not tied up. So let's say you have an accepted offer. Jean-Michel has to sell his house. So he's waiting. He's done his inspection. He knows that, okay, now all I have to do now is sell my house. So
Mhm.
they're giving me 30 days, whatever it is. I come in with my new buyer. We make an offer. It's conditional on canceling Jean-Michel's offer. But my
Right.
buyer needs to go do the inspection, get the mortgage approval and everything else really fast. Once we do that, the listing agent has to give Jean-Michel 72 hours to remove his condition of selling his house. The
Okay.
only way he can do that is if he has the cash at the bank or has sold their house. And if he can't, well, then we get the house.
So you're saying that, like, well, you're saying, so there's an escape clause. So everyone, you're putting it, they're taking the condition with an escape clause if someone else comes with a better offer. But now, how does it come up on MLS? Does it come up as sold conditional with an escape clause, or is it all still active? And you're just, whenever someone goes see the property, they would call you and say, hey, by the way, we have an accepted offer, but there's an escape clause in it.
Yeah, no, so it says CPP 72 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
So we know that there's an offer conditional on a sale.
And people are still looking at these properties. They're still like, oh, yeah, I'll go take a
In the
look.
past, they would not have, like during that whole pandemic period, they wouldn't even have had that clause.
Mm.
Now, yes. But you also have to have the agent who knows how to navigate it, because if you don't know how to deal with it,
Sure.
it's fiasco. So it's not for everybody.
Okay. So it's more common to be accepting offers with conditions of sales.
Some houses have been on the market for 6 months and they're not selling, no offers, no
I
showings.
feel like that's probably the same in most markets in Canada right now, where, back in the pandemic, you couldn't even get a home inspection condition. You couldn't even get a financing condition. Now sellers are the pendulum has swung a little bit. And I think that, like I said, I think some of the news in Toronto recently is a little misleading because yes, sales were up 37%, but again, that's compared to one of the worst Januaries ever on record. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Mm.
I think we're coming back to normal, but you also sent me the Montreal stats. What does Montreal look like? You said everything looks
I read
kind
an
of,
article that prices were up 7%. I think sales were up 18%. That's what I read.
So I don't like statistics like that because they're very general.
Sure.
And you can have one neighborhood where the sales are up by 20% and others that are down. And so it gives you a general perception of what it is. And so it misleads the public because then you'll have the guy who calls you and says, well, sales are up 7%. Well, yes, but not in your neighborhood. They're down by 10%. So I don't like those stats. I feel like they're not realistic and they're too generalized.
Good
Okay.
point.
Yeah, fair enough. So you work all of Toronto, you work all of Montreal. So you work the whole island and West Island, North, East. Do you go South Shore and like what's it called?
I'd rather not go South Shore. I do. I prefer the downtown core, Old Montreal, downtown, Griffintown. Those are like the high rises, new construction, pre-construction, and resales. I love that. I'm actually listing some pre-construction that's going to be on the market in the next couple of weeks. And I'm going to be sending it out to all my Canadian realtors across Canada because we can't go to the US, right?
So is this the building that's giving you a Porsche when you're buying it?
Is that Montreal?
Yeah, well,
No.
in the video I sent, it said Toronto or Montreal. I don't know if you had a chance to look that up or not, but
So I sent it to a friend of mine and we're like, no, there's nothing like that. I know every building, there's no way. I've never seen that. No.
They must be doing that to protect their pricing because they must be selling it. So they're not selling it for like, people who bought in that building can still close. So now they're selling the new stuff more, but you're getting a Porsche to kind of counterbalance that.
So the only building that I ever saw that happen was at the Porsche Tower in Miami.
Okay.
It wasn't the building that was doing it. It was actually realtors who were offering it as part of their commission. So they would take it out of their commission and offer the Porsche. Because I don't know if you
Wow.
know this Porsche Tower, there's an elevator for your car that comes to your unit.
Oh,
It's insane.
We all
Yeah.
need one of those, right?
yeah, that'd
They
be
probably
awesome.
got some sort of a fleet discount or something like that. This one developer, maybe they got an incentive if they bought a volume, like, a lot of Porsches and then tried to offer them.
No.
I don't know.
No, it was, let's say, it's very different in the States and here. Anybody can represent and bring in a buyer. So this guy decided, you know what, the commission's so high, let me offer a Porsche to whoever wants to buy the unit.
Okay. What were the prices of those condos? I mean, you go to Florida a lot, right? So you're down there a lot. I know you connect with a lot of agents down there and stuff like that. So I'm guessing.
I don't remember the prices, but I know that the Regalia, which is not far, there were like $20 million per unit because they were the whole floor.
Yeah.
On the beach, you have like 360-degree views, but no elevator going to your unit with your car.
No. What a shame. What a waste.
So this building that you're selling, Monique, what exactly is that?
So
These
this one is
pre-con units.
luxury condo. Sorry, I changed my background. Luxury condos in downtown. They were listed, I think, a couple of years ago with an agency that deals with pre-construction mainly. I won't say the name. And it didn't work out because then the pandemic happened and the foreign buyer ban happened. And the cost of construction went up, so the prices went up and it stalled. Now there's a new guy in charge there, and instead of giving the whole building to one agency or one agent, I love what they're doing. They hired 6 of us from different agencies, different backgrounds, to come and list a whole bunch. The intention is to get as much publicity as we can for it. They're beautiful. I can't say where it is yet because my contract's not signed. It'll be signed later today or tomorrow.
Okay.
But it will be really, really nice. I'm actually looking forward to this one.
Oh, cool. What's the pricing on these things? Like you're saying they're luxury condos. What does a luxury condo in Montreal cost?
Yeah, so a 1 bedroom starts at 600.
It's about a Toronto condo, right?
So
David?
what's that on a price per square foot basis? Because Toronto mostly right now we're around $1,000 a square foot resale
Okay, so let me
condos.
tell you. It's about,
Ballpark.
I think they're selling it around 1,000 a square foot, and for
Wow.
some, it's about 1,200 a square foot. So for example, I'm looking at my screen, I'm not looking at you guys. A unit on the 9th floor with 2 bedrooms, 764 square feet, with the taxes is about $916,000.
Do you get a tax rebate in Quebec for that?
Not for this price range.
Not for this price range. Oh, okay. That's crazy. That's a luxury condo and 760 square feet, you said.
Yeah.
It's not very
So I'm
big.
assuming they haven't actually broken ground yet. You said that they had it listed a few years ago.
No, they have. They've sold over 50%. So now they want to sell the rest, and that's why they've hired a whole bunch of agents to do it and represent them. And I believe occupancy is May 2024.
Oh, that's pretty quick.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. So I'm
So can I
offering
ask,
full half of commission to all the agents. If you guys have buyers, let's do it.
How
nice.
much is it? Okay.
Tell you offline.
Okay.
So let me ask you guys both brought up this neighborhood in Mississauga, South Shore. In Montreal, sorry, South Shore. What's going on with South Shore?
Oh, nothing. It's just South Shore.
Okay, South Shore is off the island. You have to go to cross the bridge.
Okay.
Get
There's always
there.
construction. There's always traffic. It's not like you either want to be on the island or off the island, and like it's just a pain to get on the island. It's just insane. I don't know how bad it's been getting, but last I was there, there's always construction on the Mercier or the Champlain or whatever. It's just
Have you
crazy.
seen the new bridge?
Sorry?
Have you seen the new bridge? It's really nice.
No, I haven't seen the new bridge. Which
Yeah, it's
one?
beautiful. It's beautiful. They light it up.
Oh,
But it's not my territory. And if anything, like if somebody calls me, I'll probably outsource it and refer it out.
okay. So it's not worth going over there. What
No,
about
it's not it. I want to focus on my
fair enough?
what
Fair
unless it's $1 million listing.
enough. Okay.
Sense to the non-million listing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, well, that's awesome. What else is there? Like, I mean, like when we're talking about Montreal, like I know it's different, like it's completely different, right? Real estate here and there. Like when you guys write an offer, like the offers are all pretty much written for you. There's not like you don't add additional clauses in there, do you? Or is it very unlikely?
No, we can add as many clauses as we need to add. The government actually, it's getting more and more complicated. So now I cannot represent both the seller and the buyer at the same time. I need to have a brokerage contract with the seller or with the buyer. If the buyer decides to come to me as listing agent, I have to let them know that I represent the seller and not them, but I'll still give them equitable treatment, but they have to sign a document that says that I represent the seller and they're aware.
Right.
Interesting. Because they
That
banned
sounds
that in
like
BC
that's
now. In British Columbia, it's totally banned now, double lending. So
No,
seems
I
like
can
you can
still
do,
double end.
it seems like, yeah, you just have to make this disclosure now to the other party, to the buyer.
We also have to have them sign, there's a new law 25 for privacy. We have to have them sign a document that says we're asking you for ID and you consent before we can even continue. So everything is getting more and more complicated paper-wise.
Well, that's good. More complications mean less agents are going to want to do it. It means there's going to be less competition for you.
Chelsea.
But you think they have to have some sort of regulations? Because I could just imagine the horror stories of individuals dealing with, certain agents, not all of them, but certain agents, and maybe just not understanding who's representing who. And, I feel like there needs to be some sort of regulation, but I guess we'll see. Everything's always changing in the market.
Yeah, I agree.
When the buyer comes to see you and you're letting them know, hey, by the way, I'm not representing you, so you can't really give them any information about the property. You're not giving them the last sold or whatnot. They have to figure that out on their own, or is it like you're still helping them a little bit with some stuff and trying to lead them to, because you couldn't tell them what price to come in at, right?
No, so I'm not allowed to do that. The only thing I can do is send them the comps of the building and let them figure it out.
Public information, I guess, right?
What price they want to offer.
So you can't be like, oh, so anyway, as a listing agent, you would just probably favor your
It's
clients.
going on the internet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, if it's public information, I think that's one thing. But yeah, so I see. Is it true you can buy a nice condo downtown Montreal for about 400,000? Is that something realistic in the market? Yeah,
A one bedroom? No
yeah,
parking. Yeah.
but like something decently sized, 500, 600 square feet.
About 516 square feet.
That's not bad. That's not bad.
99. No parking.
That's not bad. I mean, you compare that in Toronto, it's probably more like 650 for
Okay.
something that's on transit downtown, not out of the way, so to speak, with a decent layout. You're into the probably 600, 650, something kind of on the baseline here in Toronto.
Yeah, I know you could, I mean, it'll vary, but you can definitely find a 399. It'll go up to like 6 for nicer building, more central, but it's on average, I would say 385 till 650.
Not bad. Not bad. I mean, if we showed you some of the units you can get in Toronto for 380, they're older buildings, they're really big floor plans, really high maintenance fees, but there's not really much available here in Toronto. But yeah.
Well, actually, that's a good point, maintenance fees, because we were talking about that before. Our maintenance fees here are ridiculous. There's some condos that have $1,000 to $1,200 maintenance fee a month. What do
What's
you like?
included?
I mean, sometimes it includes everything, heat, hydro, and all that stuff, but sometimes it includes nothing. Like there's one condo I sold, the maintenance fee were like $2,000 a month, and it was just ridiculous. But the thing is, like, what are the maintenance fees in Montreal look like? Like I know, like me being there, a lot of people would complain when the maintenance fee would be 300.
I guess
mean,
price per square foot, is there like a range that you normally see?
So usually at construction, if it's a newer building, they were starting at 39 cents a square foot, but you have to expect that once you're moving in, it'll double.
well done.
It'll double, always doubled, and if it's a newer building, you're kind of safe. But after years, I guess 1, 2, and 3, when they realize what the issues are with the building or potential, your fees are going up. They're never going to
Sure.
stay at 39 cents. I just sold a condo it's actually a 3-bedroom, but it's a way older building. And the condo fees just went up to 900 and something a month.
Wow.
And it's a
They went up a
$500,000 condo.
Yeah, they went up a lot.
They're going up everywhere. If you look at so I don't know how it works in Montreal, but in Toronto, we have these things called status certificates,
Okay.
which is basically the financials of that building. It shows all the revenues. It just shows everything. So I would say most resale buildings, 10 years old, you're somewhere around 85 to 90 cents per square foot in general, in terms of maintenance fees. Back in 2019, 2020, the average was more, closer to 70 or 75 cents a square foot. So when you look at insurance, you look at repairs, maintenance, contracts, everything is going up. And I'm seeing that basically for all resale condos all across the GTA right now. So I would say around around 90 cents a square foot is kind of the norm now.
So what happened with us here is a lot of the buildings did not have proper contingency funds. And they were going bankrupt and lots of assessments to condo owners. So they changed the law, and it's mandatory now for every condo building to get a what's called an engineering report to see what potential problems will come
Right.
about in the next 5 to 10 years, and then assess everybody in order to build back the contingency fund in advance. That's why we're seeing everything going up. here.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
So it seems like a lot of things are similar. We call that a reserve fund here in Toronto, but it sounds like it's the same thing.
Reserve fund, yeah.
It's a portion of the maintenance fees that go into a reserve fund. And I guess with condo buying, it's really important to understand what kind of property manager you have and to look at the financials, because most people don't understand when you buy into a condo, you become personally liable for all the fees and expenses of that building, like as a owner, as a joint owner in that building. So something to consider with that for condo owners for sure.
So do you explain that to your clients?
100%. I mean, the nice thing now is that there's actually inventory. What's that? Jean-Michel says no. Okay, so there's a building not too far from me on King West. Beautiful buildings, one of the oldest buildings in that neighborhood. I'm not going to say the address. And so my client puts in an offer, is conditional on status certificate review. And we found out that there was an $11 million special assessment to replace all the windows in this building. And it's like it's one of these multiplex buildings. There's about 500 units. And, in a situation like that, the condo corp basically had a few different options. Number one was to do a special assessment, which was going to be like, $40,000 per that unit. The second one was to increase maintenance fees like beyond the scope of what was normal. And then the third one was for them to get a commercial loan, which was basically just kicking the can down the road versus charging these owners. So yeah, it's really important to understand that you're buying into a financially well looked after building.
You know what happened with that? I'm curious. What did they decide?
So when we put the offer in, they were still in the process of sending out bids to different contractors. It was in the status certificate, but they hadn't actually initiated the actual process yet.
Okay.
So some of the engineers that came in, they estimated about $11 million, but it was just so up in the air. And with the condo market here in Toronto, there's more inventories, and it just didn't make any sense for my client. So we'll see what happens. It's scary for owners. I mean, not a lot of people have $40,000 sitting in liquid cash to go pay for something.
Going on in a building here also where I am, and one of my friends bought in that building probably like over 10 years ago, and she keeps messaging me, what do I do? What do we do? I'm like, oh yeah, it's very stressful.
No, for sure. Yeah. I mean, condos, I went to see a client who was looking to list their property, and they actually had a special assessment for windows, but their number was incredibly high. It was like 40 million or something to do all the windows. And it's just like, you hear that number, you're like, that's absurd. I just did my windows and it cost me like 10 grand to do the whole house. Like, you're telling me it's going to cost you a condo $60K per unit to do your windows? And you're just like, and the thing is, like, she tried to fight it and whatnot, and just didn't work. Like, she ended up having to pay for it and stuff like that. So it's just like, and they were like, oh, we can give you a loan and we'll charge you parts and this and that. And it's just like, but those condos dropped in value by like 200,000. It was insane.
Of course. Who would want to buy in those things?
Yeah.
And that's why it's important when you're going through a status certificate, like, is there any pending litigation towards this condo corporation? Are they being sued by anyone? And if they are, is it frivolous, or is this something that could actually get paid out? So you gotta be very careful when you're buying condos for sure.
I have a question for you guys.
Yeah.
How close to closing is it once we make an offer down there? Like, what's the fastest? If
30 days.
Yeah.
Oh,
If it's vacant, 30 days.
interesting.
If it's tenanted, it's got to be 60 days. Just by our landlord tenant board rules, you got to give that tenant 60 days notice. But I would say the quickest closing is 30 days here in Toronto.
Without an inspection, without a mortgage, like with the cash, right?
No, 30
No,
days with an
no.
inspection and a mortgage. Usually 5-day conditions for the would be for inspection and mortgage to get that done. And then after that, you would close.
What's it like in Montreal?
I feel like it takes 2 weeks to get a mortgage approval, the final mortgage approval.
Really?
Yeah, and so then you still have to wait at least another 2 to 3 weeks for the notary to be able to prepare.
So here's different. We have lawyers, so everyone has their own lawyer, and then you'll have like 2 weeks before they'll do a title search, so to make sure that there's no like outstanding bills on the property and stuff like that. And then like you'll like they kind of just one lawyer will send the documents to the other lawyer. It's not you're not like I remember sitting at my first deal in Montreal where you're sitting there and there's one notary and both buyer and seller on either side of the table and they're just sitting there and they're like signing documents. It's the most awkward thing I've ever been to.
The
But
buyer and the seller meet together
yeah,
on every transaction?
right, yeah.
No,
And
not
Why? This was back before COVID. I guess it must have changed now.
yeah.
and what does the notary do?
She
They
gives
prepare
you
the deed of sale. They do
Yeah.
this
Okay.
title search. They make sure that if there's any loan outstanding, they pay it off. What else?
So there's no attorneys? Buyers and sellers don't use attorneys?
no, that's the
notary is a
notary.
lawyer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So in Quebec, it's civil code, and then in Ontario, it's common law. So it's different. So it's like French law in Quebec, and it's English law in Ontario, everywhere else in Canada.
Hmm.
All right.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
You make an
Monique,
offer over there. Sorry,
okay, go
you
ahead.
make an
Go
offer
ahead.
there. She fills out a whole document, and then she sends it. When they counter it, you can't scratch off an initial, right? You gotta put a whole other counter behind it and attach it to the unless this changed. But this is what I had to do. You have to get a counter and attach it to that offer. And then if they were going to counter again, you attach it. Next thing you know, you got this this 50-page document because you're going back and forth with counters, unless it's
What do
changed
you
now.
guys do?
We just have the offer. We
Scratch
scratch
it
it
off.
out, put a new number
It-
on top, and initial, and then send it out.
Initial.
Yeah.
How
Yeah,
do you-
sometimes. What's that?
No, but then what if, let's say you scratched it off and then the other guy wants it back there? So then
Scratches
what?
it off again and puts another
Yeah.
one. And then there's initials
You should see
everywhere.
some of these back and forth offers. They have scratch like red lines all over the place with initials and back
Messy.
and forth.
Yeah.
So Monique, what's your prediction for the rest of the year? What do you think? What do you think? Give us your insight.
If everything goes well in the entire world,
Mm-hmm.
if everything is
if.
as it is now,
Big if.
I feel like the prices are going to go up. It's going to be a hot spring.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to be quiet again a little bit.
So similar to last year, basically. That was what happened in Toronto anyways. I don't know.
That's true.
Toronto, we saw about a 10% spike in the spring in freeholds. Condos have been like this since 2020. And then it was sort of like a slow bleed the rest of the year.
Yeah.
That's my prediction. Yeah,
The same thing, a spike and then a slow bleed the rest of the year.
I believe so.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. March 6th, the next BOC meeting, right? March?
Yeah. March 6th. Sounds about right.
See what happens with rates.
Yeah.
People are anticipating a June drop, and I'm thinking June seems more realistic. But again,
Everyone's guessing at this point.
yeah.
Who has been wrong on interest rate calls for the last 2 years? Who's been wrong? Me. What's that? What'd you say, Monique?
Everyone.
Everyone. Did anybody expect 5%
No.
from the Bank of Canada? 5% increase over the course of 18
I thought
months?
2%, 3%. If I would have thought 5, I would have definitely fixed my mortgage at the start.
Everybody said the market couldn't handle it. The real estate market's been very resilient, given what's happening in the economy, and we'll see what happens. I think interesting years ahead for sure.
Are you guys getting a lot of foreclosures down there in Montreal?
Not yet, but a lot of mortgages are up for renewal. So let's see what happens.
Is it the same thing in Montreal? Most people go 5-year terms for the most part. Same thing.
But so like the people who are coming in for renewal, at the time they got their mortgage, they're already at 3%, right? Like that's not like a huge difference now. I think the bank rates are like at 4 now, 4.5. Is that it? No,
5% BOC.
Yeah. Closer to 5. I spoke with a guy from RBC, a mortgage broker, a couple of weeks ago. He said most of his clients right now are buying houses and not condos.
See
that's
that?
like
The condo
See
market.
that?
yeah.
But then you got to ask yourself, why is that? Because here in Toronto, if you look at the last 10 years, the bulk of new inventory has been condos. The city of Toronto banned last year single family zoning. So now every new house in Toronto has to at least have a secondary dwelling, like a basement apartment. So they're trying to do everything they can here in Toronto to increase density. They also came out with a law last year. It was a new provision to allow homeowners to build what they call laneway suites, which is basically an additional home at the back of your property. So they're just trying to increase density. But yeah, I think a lot of families want to have their own private single family home. And condos have just been not as attractive.
What about short-term rentals out there in Montreal, like Airbnb and stuff like that? I know you guys have like a ban in the downtown core, right? You can't have an Airbnb downtown, which there are some beautiful buildings that you could easily do it, right? And the Canadian buildings would be, I think, an ideal place to do Airbnb.
They have it, but minimum is 31 days.
Hmm.
But they had banned it there at one point because it was party central and it was awful. They were destroying the building.
Oh.
There is one building in Old Montreal that you're allowed to do whatever you want for Airbnbs. And I think there's one on the market right now. I don't know
Oh, yeah.
who's going to buy it. Other than that, no, unless you own your own building and you have to be a certain amount of feet from a hotel. You can't be too close to a hotel or else you're not allowed to.
And this is provincial regulation from the province of Quebec, or is this municipal?
I think it's municipal. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Municipal because Montreal decided to add all these rules.
same thing here in Toronto. You got to have your own business license now.
Yeah.
You can only rent out your place for 180 days a year.
You know
Gotta be
what?
primary residence.
It is provincial because I remember being in a building and I see the inspector wearing his Revenue Quebec badge and he was going to check them out in person.
So wait, what is Revenue Quebec?
Jean-Michel, I don't know how to explain it. Well, how do you compare that
You guys
to?
don't use CRA?
For Quebec.
There's
You
no
have to do-
CRA in
No, there's
Quebec?
CRA and Quebec. You got to do both.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's the difference?
we pay higher taxes.
I didn't know that was possible.
Yeah.
Our property taxes are going up 10% this year in Toronto. I don't know if you heard about that or not. Made big
Yes,
news.
because we got that as well.
10%?
It was between 4 and something and 12, but it depends again on your neighborhood.
Oh, that's
Hmm.
all over Montreal, or is that just like like the downtown core? Because this is just Toronto. It's not like the GTA. It's
All
just,
of Montreal, every little,
oh, yeah.
good, yeah.
Tax.
What was the reason for the increase? To fix those roads that you guys can't seem to fix?
They hate us. We're Anglos. Well, I'm actually French, but just to say, like, no, it's if they can tax you, they will.
Yeah, it is hard to work in English, right? In Montreal, like you probably work 90% of your time in French.
No, I would say 80% of my clients are English.
Yeah.
But we do have to advertise only in French or both. I can't advertise only in English. It has to be both or just French.
So
You get a lot of people from Toronto? Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna
No.
say, do you get a lot of people moving from Ontario or no?
I get a lot from Vancouver, I imagine. I don't know why. Yeah. I've worked a lot with Vancouver people. Toronto, maybe just a handful, barely. Because they all know somebody.
I feel like Toronto would be
Makes sense.
like a very big hub because you're so close together. It's like when you leave, like you're not that far apart, right? You think that, overflow from Toronto would kind of trickle down to Montreal. But I guess a lot of people from Toronto are going to Calgary right now. So
Why?
Calgary's been booming.
yeah.
Calgary, the market, Calgary's been this anomaly versus every other Canadian market this year. Prices have been so cheap. They're building a lot. There was a lot of speculative pre-construction buying in Calgary over the last 18 months. So the money just moved from Ontario to Alberta and specifically Calgary. So
Fun.
we'll see. But then we had a guest speaker at our office a few weeks ago. He runs a big team in Calgary, and he basically said that the Calgary market is so dependent on the oil industry and how he's lived through these kind of flows, and when oil prices go down, the economy takes a big beating and vice versa. So yeah,
We'll see.
see what happens.
Your prediction, both of you. I mean, I told you what my prediction is. What do you guys?
You want to go, Jean-Michel? What do you got?
Sure. I mean, I think if everything goes well, we're talking about best case scenario, I think we'll see an uptick in the fall. I think the spring market will come in and go, and then there'll be a slower time. And then as they start dropping interest rates, we'll see a beginning, I think October we'll start seeing some uptick and sales start going a little crazy. I have that gut feeling. I just don't think that, we're not building houses fast enough anywhere. So, I mean, there's a house shortage no matter where you're looking. So it's just, it's just going to go.
I don't know. It's kind of interesting because we got about 14 million people in Ontario, and there's about 7,000 properties. So, or 70,000 properties, sorry, 7 million properties. I'm a little bit more pessimistic on the market. I think Toronto's always been this anomaly where it's been this unshakable market. Like what's the norm doesn't really tend to happen here in Toronto. For example, when we had COVID and when rent yields, plummeted for condos, we didn't really see that affect the resale market. Prices stood relatively strong. So I don't know. I see a relative flat market, maybe a slight uptick over the course of the year, but we got wars going on, a lot of money going out, a lot of taxes happening.
Crazy.
The economy's in a very precarious spot. I think people inevitably have this yearning to own their own home, and I think that's a very powerful thing. But there's a lot going on in the world right now, so
Well, we got
we'll see.
elections coming out next year too, right? Next year election.
Got one in the U.S. this year,
Yeah.
an American election. So
Definitely
lots happened.
a big part.
That's gonna be intense. It's already intense.
Yeah, see.
It's insane. I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see what happens this year. I don't know. I know Montreal's very big on like, I think the politics have a big play on Montreal market. No, or is that not the same anymore? Is it?
Yes, but it's more when the Parti Québécois was in power. Now it's like it's okay.
Yeah, stabilized a little bit. It's not as we didn't get that in here yet.
No.
No.
What's that?
No, it's because she said something and I didn't register. I don't know if you were just wording out words or not.
Who, me?
Yeah, it's
We
okay.
didn't-
No, I didn't hear you when you said something.
Oh, I said historically when there's an election and the Parti Québécois
Mhm.
is potentially going to win, the prices either stop, like the sales stop, or they plummet because their platform is the separation of Quebec from the rest of Canada.
Right.
But they're not going that route, I heard, in the next election, so it should be okay, it should be safe.
So the premier of Quebec right now, what party are they with?
So he's the original, I think, founder, don't quote me, of the Parti Québécois, or at least he used to be in it, and then he
Okay.
created a PAC called, I don't know, Coalition Avenir Québec, and it's supposed to be an inclusive party.
But
They're
your
the ones
mayor is liberal,
banning,
right? The
they're the
mayor,
ones who are banning or increasing the tuition for Anglos in the rest of Canada for universities to come here, so it's very controversial right now.
Seems like a totally different world in Quebec.
So
Seems a
different.
totally different world. I mean, it's
Yeah.
beautiful though. Montreal's a beautiful city. Quebec City is one of my favorite cities to visit. Like it's got a very European feel to it. Very, very beautiful. But yeah, it seems like Jean-Michel always tells me, if you don't speak fluent French, like you're gonna have a hard time,
I
getting
disagree.
along.
What do you mean?
Oh,
No.
I don't know. That's what Jean-Michel
no,
said.
not to visit, to like work in. If
No,
you're
to
not,
work, to move to Montreal and to like integrate into society.
Yes, but it's not that hard to learn.
it's not that hard to learn. Okay, Monique said it here first. French is not hard to learn.
I don't know.
No, I
You
mean
got anything else,
it's not that
Jean-Michel?
bad. It's just that there's differences with English and French. But I mean, I just think I don't like being forced to do something. That's the one thing I don't like about Quebec, is that you're forced to do something. It's not like a free will. Like if you move there, you gotta send your kids to French school. There's no option. Send them to French school. You gotta send them this. Now it goes all
That
the way
true?
up. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't see that as a bad thing. I wish I spoke French.
No,
I
100%.
mean,
I mean, if you have the option, I'm gonna send my kids to French school, but I'm saying having the option is great. It's not gonna change. I'm gonna definitely send my kids to French school, but knowing that I have that choice makes it, a little more, you have a little more free will from it. Also, the other big thing is like they're also forcing companies to speak French at work and stuff like that. I don't know if that's still like going through, but like they had all these laws passed where it's like the government's really in your business, in your face in Quebec.
you know
Well,
what? I might like to see some more laws that preserve the culture of different areas of Canada. You know what I mean? Like maybe that's not the worst thing ever. I don't know. Maybe.
I think it's the worst thing.
You think it's the worst thing?
thing? Oh,
I
you
don't
don't.
think,
No, right? Like, hey, if that's what happens in Quebec, if you don't like it, go live somewhere else. Oh,
the only thing that is bad about it are the fines associated with them,
if you break the penalties for however business is conducted.
Yeah. Although we speak French here all the time, so.
Right. No, I'm not saying I don't speak French. I'm just saying it's just like having that option to know that you can go somewhere and you could do your own thing. Like here, you go to a Chinese like mall or a Chinese like grocery store, everything's written in Chinese. There's no like English is sometimes
Right.
not even there. It's just like they can do what they want. There's no like English police coming through and saying, hey, this needs to be in English. Obviously, you want it to be in English because you want to sell it. But I mean, like, there's no one, like you said, they're not hiring a whole division to go knocking and harassing people because the sign is in English when it could be translated in French.
Politics. It's such a touchy subject. And the second we start talking about politics, everybody freaks out.
Ah,
So
it's good. We got to get more
Makes
views
sense.
with politics, you know.
imagine this is what these Asians said about politics in Quebec. Oh my God.
You don't need to worry about it. We have like 10 people who watch.
Yeah, no
it.
one's watching
Don't
anyways.
worry about it.
Kidding.
No.
I'm joking. Jean-Michel, you got anything else? You got anything else you wanna
No, I
wanna
think
bring
the
up?
only thing, you know, like and subscribe, right? Everyone should like and subscribe. This is awesome.
That'd be very nice.
And
Well, why don't you did you tell us at the beginning, because I wasn't on, which neighborhoods you work in?
Yeah, so I'm downtown Toronto. I'm
Yeah,
like
I
core
work
Toronto,
also.
but all over the place.
Yeah.
I live
Okay.
downtown Toronto.
I'll go anywhere the buyer can afford a place. Let's just
Yeah.
And
Yeah, but no, my focus is mostly downtown Toronto. Jean-Michel, you're more suburbs. You live
like
in the suburbs.
Durham and Scarborough. Yeah,
Jean-Michel's about a half hour outside of Toronto.
how do you guys know each other?
we used to
We
work.
used to work together. Yeah, at Old Brokerage.
Yeah.
Now we're on the same team again, but how long we known each other now for, Jean-Michel? 5 years?
Yeah, 5-6 years.
About 5 years.
Good.
So
Very nice.
yeah.
Nice.
Nice to meet you though, Monique. Thanks for coming on the podcast. Appreciate you taking the time.
Meeting me.
Yeah, awesome. Well,
100%.
hopefully this was good and everyone liked it. We'd like to see some comments this time, maybe.
I'll comment.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, Monique. Thanks, Monique.